Hi class, how are you today? That's a porcupine. Did you see that porcupine over there? That's really cool. The learning target for today is to write an equation of a line. For the scale, you're a 3 if you can write an equation of a line. So that's given a bunch of different parameters, but that you can pretty much do at any time. You're a 2 if you can write an equation of a line given 2 points. So if you have 2 points, you can write an equation of a line. You're a 1 if you can write an equation of a line given the slope and y-intercept. So if you can't do it with 2 points and you specifically need the slope and the y-intercept, then you can write an equation of a line. You would be a 1. And 0, you cannot write an equation of a line given any information. All right, let's get started. All right, so first we're going to start where I give you the slope and a point that the line goes through, and I want you to give me the equation. So what's going to happen here is, remember, the equation of a line can be written like this: y equals mx plus b, where m is your slope and b is your y-intercept. So first we're going to start by plugging in the slope. So since we know the slope, we're going to say y equals, now instead of writing m, we write the slope, which is 1/2. And then write the rest of it, x plus b. Okay? Now we need to find out what is the y-intercept in this case. So the way we can do that is we're also given a point. And remember, points are always written x, y. So in this case, 6 is your x and 2 is your y. So you can rewrite this equation and plug in x and y, and that'll leave only b, and then you can solve for b. So if we plug in our x and our y, so we're going to say, instead of y, we're going to plug in 2. So that gives us 2 equals 1/2. Now instead of x, we're going to write 6 and put it in parentheses, just to show that it's 1/2 times 6. And then leave the plus b. So first we plugged in our slope, then we plugged in our 2 points. Now we can just do this problem out and solve for b. So first, what's 1/2 times 6? Well, 1/2 times 6 is 3. So that's going to give us 2 equals 3 plus b. Now to solve for b, this is a positive 3, so we subtract 3 from both sides. And that will give us -1 equals b. So now we have our b. It's -1. So now we go back into this equation here, and we plug in the slope and the y-intercept. So y equals, the slope was 1/2, x plus, now the y-intercept was -1. So plus -1, or we can just say -1. And this is our final answer. So after we find out what b is, we have to go back into the original equation and plug in the slope and the y-intercept, the m and the b. Notice we don't plug the x and the y that we used in this equation back in. The x and the y stay x and y. Alright, so now in this problem, we have 2 points. -1, 2, and 1, 6. So first we have to find the slope. So if you remember, xy, xy, to find slope, you have to put it in this formula. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So remember, this was the first point, so this is the x1, y1. This was the second point, x2, y2. So now we plug everything in. So this will give us y2 was 6, y1 was 2, so 6 minus 2. x2 was 1, and then minus x1, which was -1. And then we do the top and the bottom. 6 minus 2 is 4, and then 1 minus -1. Remember, when you minus a negative, you have to add a positive. So these now turn into addition signs. So 1 plus 1 is 2, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. Please reduce it, especially in this case, because it's easier if you don't have a fraction that you can deal with whole numbers, or at least reduced fractions are even easier. So the more you can reduce it, the better you'll be. Alright, so now we have to plug this in the slope-intercept form. So that's going to be y equals, and instead of m, we write 2, and then x plus b. Now we're starting off just like we were in the other problem. The only difference is we have 2 points here. It doesn't matter which of the points you pick. However, this is an x and this is a y. You have to pick the x and the y from the same problem. So, from the same point. So if you pick this x, you have to pick this y. If you pick this x, you have to pick this y. So just to make it easier, I'll just pick the first one. So that means x is -1 and y is 2. So we're going to say 2 equals, the slope again is still 2, and then x was -1, so times -1 plus b. So now we do it out. 2 times -1 is -2. So 2 equals -2 plus b. So it's a -2, so we add 2 to both sides to solve for b. And that'll give us 4 equals b. So in this case, b is 4. So now we go back into this equation and plug in our b. So that'll give us y equals 2 for the slope, x plus b, and b was 4. So again, this gives us an equation. Alright, so 2 more quick problems here. These are special cases. So again, we're given 2 points here. So with these 2 points, first we have to find the slope. So we plug it in. M equals y2 is 4, y1 is 4, x2 is 3, y2 is -2, x2 is 3, x1 is -2, 4 minus 4 is 0, 3 minus -2, you add those, so that gives you 5, and 0 divided by anything is 0. So our slope is 0. So what's going to happen with that is if your slope is ever 0, remember from last time we said when your slope is 0, that means it's going to be a horizontal line. So your equation is going to be y equals some number. Now the number you pick, notice in this case we have 4 in both of these. So you look at your y's in both points. They should be the same number. If they are, that means you did the slope right, and so that means the number that they both are is what y equals. So y equals 4. In this case down here, y2 is 6, y1 is 2, x2 is negative 3, y2 is negative 3. x1 is negative 3. Sorry, I keep saying y2 for some reason. So 6 minus 2 is 4, and then negative 3, again, minus a negative, so you add them. So negative 3 plus 3 is going to give you 0. So 4 divided by 0, remember I said in the last video, you can't divide by 0. It's physically impossible. So anything divided by 0 is undefined. So if you have an undefined slope, again, remember I said this last video, that means you're going to have a vertical line. It's going to be x equals some number. Now the number for this is going to be, the x's should be the same, so it's whatever number both x's are, which in this case is negative 3. So your answer in this one, x equals negative 3. So if you get a slope of 0, then it should be y equals whatever your y is. If you get a slope of undefined, it should be x equals whatever x is. Alright, first we're going to talk about what parallel and perpendicular lines are. Parallel lines never intersect. They go in the same direction forever, and they never touch each other. Now, the main thing we're looking at in this section is the slopes. The slopes of parallel lines are equal. They're the same. So let's say I have the slope of a line, and the slope of that line is 7. The slope of a line parallel to that, which I'll just call MP, is also 7. So if the slope of a line is 7, the slope of a line parallel to that is also 7. Perpendicular lines are a little bit more confusing. Perpendicular lines, they intersect, but they intersect at a 90-degree angle, also known as a right angle. Their slopes are the negative reciprocal of each other. So what that means is if I have a slope, let's say 7 again, the slope of the line perpendicular to that well, 7 as a fraction is 7 over 1, right? So we want to do the negative reciprocal. So what that means is 7 was positive, so we make it negative. If it was negative, we would make it positive again. We just change the sign, and then we flip the fraction. So 7 over 1 will become 1 over 7. So the reciprocal of 7 is negative 1 over 7. So if the slope was 7, we flip it and change the sign to make it negative 1 over 7. Alright, so here's our first example. We want to write the equation of a line that passes through the point 5, negative 7 and is parallel to 3x plus 5y equals 15. So the first thing we have to do is write this equation in slope-intercept form. So first, we're going to subtract 3x from both sides, which will give us 5y equals negative 3x plus 15. Then we divide everything by 5. And that'll give us y equals negative 3/5 x plus 3. So, now we look at the slope of this line, negative 3/5. Since it's parallel, the slope of our line is going to be exactly the same as the slope of that line, negative 3/5. So now we want to write our line in slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. So y equals negative 3/5 x plus b. Now, this is where we've done this stuff before. We take this point and we plug it into this equation. So that's going to give us negative 7 equals negative 3/5 times 5 plus b. Now we multiply that out, gives us negative 7 equals negative 3, because these two 5s just cancel each other out, plus b. Now to solve for b, we just add 3 to both sides, and that gives us b equals negative 4. So if b equals negative 4, we write it back into the equation. Y equals, our slope is negative 3/5 x minus 4. So the steps were take the equation that our line is parallel to, turn it into slope-intercept form, take its slope, it's the same because it's parallel, plug that slope into slope-intercept form, plug the points in, and solve for b, and then write the equation. Alright, now we're dealing with a line that passes through negative 4, 6, and is perpendicular to y equals negative 2/3 x plus 5. So, first, it's already in slope-intercept form for us. So we just have to take this slope and say our slope, m, equals, now remember, it's perpendicular. That means we change the sign, so the negative becomes a positive, and then we take the reciprocal of it. 2 over 3, you flip that. That becomes 3 over 2. So change the sign and then flip the fraction. Now we want to write it in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Our slope is 3 over 2. So y equals 3 over 2 x plus b. Now we plug in negative 4 6. So that'll give us 6 equals 3 over 2 times negative 4 plus b. So 3 over 2 times negative 4, that's going to be negative 6 plus b. So then we add 6 to both sides, and that'll give us b equals 12. So we plug that into our final equation. Y equals the slope, 3 over 2, x plus the y-intercept b, which is 12. So in this case, it was already in slope-intercept form. We take the slope, change the sign, and flip it. Plug the slope into slope-intercept form. Plug the points into slope-intercept form. And then do it out, solve for b, and then plug m and b back into the equation. All right, now time for the sponge activity. For this, I want you, for each problem, to write an equation of a line given, and in number 1, given the points 5, 2, and 3, negative 4. And for number 2, given the point 2, 3, and knowing that it's perpendicular to the line negative 2x plus 4y equals 8. All right, that's it for this lesson. Once again, please make sure to take notes on the entire lesson, take a picture of everything, including the sponge activity, submit it all to Google Classroom, and have a good night.